Welcome to a new one on this channel, and this occasion is the drive from SHAPER box. Everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. Now remember, if you like all of this, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee, you can. Everything is in the description. Okay, so this module is just very simple. You have the drive, which is the more analog type of distortion, and then you have the crush, which is the more digital type of, crushing and distortion. So the drive is the, analog one. Now, with this module, we can use it for just a little bit of saturation or just to completely smash the signal. And you can use it for mixing, or you can use it for mastering, or maybe, for creative uses. Now, first, we need to understand the controls. So you have the most basic controls that you would get on any distortion or saturation unit. You have the drive, you have the type of saturation or distortion, and then you have the input and the output, and then the blend control. And then everything in between, all the other options that we're going to be talking about in a minute. So I have a simple kick and snare right here, and it's pretty dynamic, and that's the whole point. So as soon as you go up, it's going to start crushing it. And right in the side and in the right side, you can see which style you're using and how you're, distorting. As you keep going up, it's going to distort more and more. Now notice that there's a difference between the original signal and, the waveform that we get is completely clipped. It's super flat, so we are squashing everything. Right, as you keep going up, of course, it's going to do more. I believe I just need to explain this. So if I go down, maybe just a tiny little bit, if you take a look at the transients, notice how we are just squashing everything a little bit. So this is, very helpful to control the transients and just to squash it a little bit. So again, it's a saturation and distortion unit. Now, the other side is going to be the styles. So you have a lot of different styles, and they all sound very different. From soft clipping, which is very mild, gonna start it again and do a little bit more. So you have the soft clipping, you have the hard clipping, which is gonna be a little bit more aggressive, of course. And then you have the square. Then we have the hard square. Listen to look at this part right here. It's pretty cool. Then you have a rectify, which is again super cool. And you have the wave folding, which is going to be a little bit different from the other ones. Now you cannot avoid thinking that maybe this one, it doesn't sound that good, right? So with the saturation unit, especially with the plugin, you have a mix control, so you don't need to go all the way in. You can go down and just get a tiny little bit of whatever is that you're doing on the style. Right? If we go to the other one, so you can do a little bit of hard clip. Completely smashed, but then I can maybe go back and just get a little bit of magic, just like that. Now, on top of that, remember this is a saturation unit, a distortion unit, and you have an input and you have an output. So if you're doing 50%, if you drive your input, you're going to be hitting it harder, just like, you would with a guitar amp or anything that has, a preamp stage. So if you input, it's just doing it more. You can just do it by, driving the input. If you go down, it's gonna, distort less. So if your signal is too hard, you can, trim it with the input. And then you can adjust the outputs, of course. Maybe it's just too loud, you just can go down all the output. So all of this is just pretty common for a distortion or saturation unit. You get the amount of drive, you get the input and output, and then you have the mix and, different styles if, the plugin has different styles, which in this case, we do have. Okay, so grip and push. So grip acts like an expander. It's going to make the quiet parts more quiet, so you get a more controlled, distorted sound. Now, let me give you an example because just, talking about this is just not very easy to understand. I'm going to be playing it. And notice that now I have a different clip. I have something super dynamic. It's a little bit annoying to hear, but, I'm going to go down in volume. All right. So you get the kick right in the middle, and then you get the snare, right? And it's super dynamic. That's fine. That's actually the whole point. So I'm going to start driving it, and when we compress, we compress, and we make it less dynamic. But at the same time, when we do something like this, we bring everything closer. The kick, the snare, and the rides are right there in your face, right? So the quiet parts go up, the louder parts go down and everything is super compressed and, leveled. That's part of, saturating and distorting. So the grip, what it will do, it will work on your dynamics. So if I go up on the grip, notice what happens. We get dynamics back. We're still distorting the same amount, but now notice that the quiet parts, which is the rights mostly, are going down. And we keep most of the other ones. So this is a nice way to bring some dynamics back if you're driving it. If I go all the way up, it's going to be way dynamic. Now, of course, it's still affecting your kick and snare, the louder transients. So you need to find the sweet spot right here. Maybe right there. If I turn it off, of course, it's super aggressive. But we can just dial it back. And again, find the sweet spot. Alright, so this is how it works. Now, with all the different modules, this is going to be super useful. Because maybe if I go to hard clip, which is going to be really aggressive, just squashing everything, is a nice way to get, a little bit more dynamics back. Alright. So another cool thing with the grip is that if you're not driving at all, I'm going to go all the way down and play it again. The grip will still work on whatever incoming signal, even if you're not distorting. If I go up with the grip, notice that the quiet parts go, quiet, more quiet. So the grip works regardless of, if you're driving. All right. Very useful control. Now then you have something that calls push. Now notice that the push is disabled. Now the push is something that we can only use with the rectify styles and then the wave folding. So what this is going to be a DC offset. And notice if I go to, maybe I'm going to go to rectify. So when you go to rectify, it becomes available. And if I start crashing it, this is of course how the rectify, shows. Now, how this will work. So if I push, again, this is a DC offset. It's going to offset whatever that we have right here. So this is going to be the center point. If I move it, it's going to offset it. So we start to get something else. Now, I want you to look at the oscilloscope. This is the normal waveform that we get from this. But when we offset it, we start to affect it. And it sounds, of course, completely different, and it looks completely different as well. So this is what the push is. It's like pushing, literally, or offsetting this from the center, right? So we get the same option, the push. It's going to do the same with the hard rectify, and the other ones are super cool because we can get, really different sounds. But this is all it is. You have the grip and the push to keep the transients, and then the push is going to do an DC offset. So as you can see, the drive, the input, the output, and mix, and the styles are really useful. But then with the grip and the push, you can just, take it to a different place. You can really modify what you're doing. So these ones are really important, and you should not disregard these options when you're using this module. You can drive, you can saturate, but, just check the grip and the push. That might, you might be getting something really cool if you, use these functions. All right, so just like the grip and the push, we have the accent and the tone. And these ones, again, are meant to mold or control the distortion, whatever it is that we are doing, a little bit better. Now, the accent works almost, I want to say but almost like a transient designer is going to give us back a little bit of transience. All right, that's what it does. So I'm going to be playing it. And I'm going to be driving it. And I'm going to do around, something around there, 30%, something like that. So we are just, chopping all the transients, and that's fine. Now I'm going to be going to accents, and I'm going to bring it up. So what we get is a little bit more of the transients. Now, of course, you need to gain match because it's going to go louder. But this is what it is doing. It's giving you back a little bit of the transients. So if you think about this, it almost has the same idea than grip. Now, if I go all the way down, we get less, and we get more. Now, the accent is not like the grip. If we are all the way down and we go up in the grip, we are getting it, but the accent does nothing. So the accent is completely proportional to the style and the drive. If I go really up on the drive, the accent is going to really affect the drive, how much we are doing. If I go up, we get more transients. Of course, it goes louder. And we have something a little bit less. So this is how it works without using the LFO. Now, I wouldn't use this like this because it's just, in my opinion, it just makes no sense. This really works when you're using something as an LFO. So I'm going to be going to rhythm, and you do have this, and I'm going to be doing something like this, right? So what we are doing, we are just, adding some peaks at some point in time, and then it's going to be distorting it like that. So I'm going to be playing it, and you're going to really notice the difference. And I'm going to go to default on the accent, and I'm going to drive more. So you can really hear what we are doing. We are just, distorting every time that we hit this part, then we go down, we go up on distortion, we go down, we go really up on the drive, and then we go down. And we get this, rhythm. So the accent is better used with an LFO. If I go down, notice that the accents that we have right here, the peaks on, the LFO, are just, not that much, not so aggressive. So we are just dialing them back. If I go back to 1, it's more obvious. If I scale it, they become more aggressive. So this is a nice way to, maybe if you're doing something like this, you get something a little bit more aggressive. But if maybe it's too aggressive, you can just dial it back and have a nice blend. So I think this is the main purpose of the accent, in my opinion, when you use it with an LFO. Maybe if you're just not doing anything and you're just driving, this is not going to help so much. Now, the other thing that you have is the tone, and the tone is an EQ, is a tilt EQ. Now, the thing is that the tone is completely proportional to whatever you have on the drive. Let me give you an example. If I'm doing 30%, the tone is like a filter. Going all the way down, it's going to let, the low frequencies pass, and then the high frequencies pass. It's a low pass and high pass. The thing is that we almost get no difference, right? So this is useful and proportional to the drive. If you're really killing it, you're crushing it, I want you to look at the spectrum. So if I go down, what happens? It's just darker. And maybe I'm going to go all the way so it's just super obvious. So it's a little bit darker. And if I go to the other side, it's brighter. So you're just getting rid of the lower frequencies. So yeah, it's a tilt EQ. Now the thing is, I'm going to leave it all the way up. This is completely, again, proportional to the drive. If I do less drive, the tilt is going to be less and less and less until we get pretty much nothing. Right? So this is a nice way. So, maybe if you have something super bright, something like that, maybe you want to dial it back and have a nice blend, with whatever it is that you're doing right here. If I go to the other side, notice it sounds different. Super nosy, brighter, a little bit darker. So that's the main purpose of the tone. Right, so that's pretty much all the controls that you get. It's a pretty simple unit. It might look challenging because of the grip and the push and the accent, because maybe you didn't know what they do, but now you know, and it's just pretty simple to understand. It's a pretty simple unit. Of course, you can create rhythms with this, just like we did with the other one. If I play it, we are just creating some movements and just more of a rhythmical part, or you can just use it as a saturation unit. You have a lot of different styles, and they are all, they are very cool. They work great. Just crushing it. If you want to get rid of the peaks, you can do a little bit and just get rid of the peaks. Also remember that you have the multi-band. Maybe you want to distort it on different ways. So I'm going to be just crushing the high frequencies. And remember how everything else worked. Maybe it's just, too crushed. So I'm going to be making it a little bit more dynamic with the grip. So it's a little bit more useful. We can maybe use the accent or just dial it back. Now on top of that, remember that you do have the envelope floor if you want to use it. It's something that you get on pretty much all the modules, not all of them, but you get it. But again, it's just a very simple unit to use. You just select your, band or maybe the whole spectrum. You drive it, you select your style, and then you fine tune it with all the other controls that you have right here. If you like all of this, remember to like and subscribe. And if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee, you can go to the links of the description. You have links for PayPal, Patreon, and YouTube. Thanks. All right, so see you on the next one.